Hello, everyone, and welcome to Healing Between Thoughts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And if you're tuning in, this is the show that is about actionable stuff for you to heal. And today we're going to talk about forgiveness. And we hear about this a lot, right? So, this is something that, and I would love to hear any of your comments. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. We have a thing with humans, with anything really, where our mind tells us that something is happening and keeps us safe, and it agrees with us. And in that agreement, we are. It's expected that we agree that we are being kept safe. And so this is where the forgiveness comes in, because we will hold on to a grudge in order to keep ourselves safe. And if we decide that, yeah, that person did that horrible thing to us, we will continue to believe that we should hold that grudge in order to keep ourselves safe. And it's very logical, very, very logical. But what we don't have is the the sense to where our energy is going, because that's not really what our brain is trying to do for us at the moment. So if we have anything going on that can bring us out of that holding a grudge state, we actually heal. And so uh, I'm going to tell you a story quickly about how this has actually worked in real life for me. So I had a leg that suddenly went just kaplooey. I was walking down the street and I just fell down. And it turned out that the ligament had been holding on by a thread since a former accident of mine that had put me up in the hospital for a really long time, and nobody was really worried about my leg because it just kind of was laying there, and that was fine. So in doing this, I ended up having a surgery that was an unusual surgery, and it lasted a really long time. And turned out that it was the only time that this surgeon had done this surgery. It had been done in other parts of the country, and it had to be redone 2 and 3 times for each person who it was done for, which was only like 20 people. And this is in the days of not arthroscopic surgery. There was some arthroscopic surgery, but it was not being done for this kind of thing. And to be honest, this was just bigger than arthroscopic. So they had to actually cut me open. That happens in surgery, right? And there's an anesthesiologist there. And at the last minute, the anesthesiologist was switched. And I thought to myself, as I was going under the anesthesia, this guy's an idiot. And I had a really big feeling of foreboding. But, whatever. Didn't know. Surgery got done after 11 hours, and I was, my leg was good to go. But the nurse, the post op nurse, said, never seen a tourniquet left on that long. So later on, after my leg swelling finally went down, 2 weeks, my leg was like the size of a house. And then all of a sudden it went down, and I had no muscles left, none, no tissue, no, like nothing. I had skin on bone, and it was right down to the bone. And I was screaming my block off. I'm not, we go into the tenderness of this at all. It hurt. It was like knives being shoved up through my leg over and over again. And so when that happened, there was an uproar. And first thing that happens, we went to um, a big law firm. And that law firm hello, Adrian. And that law firm said, yeah, you've got a big case. They didn't let the tourniquet off, and um, blah blah blah. Um, in the end, suddenly the law firm didn't realize that this was happening anymore. They forgot that I even existed, and it turned out that they had been paid off. So I had lots of reason to hold a grudge. Right? Here's where the grudge comes in. My family said you need to sue the lawyer, sue the doctor, sue everybody, and something snapped in me, and I said, no, I'm fine. I can walk. I'm going to heal. And the thing is about that I mean, there was so much reason to hold a grudge. The nurse who had given me the records to send to lawyers, that nurse who said I've never seen a tourniquet left on that long, actually went to someplace else, and it was undisclosed. I tried to find that nurse. I couldn't find her anywhere. It was like she had never worked at that hospital. So here we were, and I could have sued the lawyer who got paid off by the anesthesiologist, and sued the anesthesiologist, and really gone at this. But remember, I was screaming in pain, and I had my metabolism was going like this because it just had nothing but pain. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't do anything. And so when everybody said, hey, you need to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone again, which is true, it'd be really good for that not to happen to anyone again. But I said, no, I'm fine, I'm going to heal. And if I hadn't in that moment said that, and I put all my energy into getting retribution, I wouldn't have had the energy go into the healing and into the leg. And I can walk now. I have a perfectly normal leg. At least, as far as you guys would see. I'm sure it's not entirely normal. My foot feels hot and cold a little bit differently, but I have muscles. I'm able to walk and ski and write. And I am hi Jackie, and hello LinkedIn user from Dubai. I don't actually know who you are. If I hadn't used all my energy to go into the healing, and I just went into the fact that I was never going to walk again, that I was never going to be out of pain, and let that make me more and more angry, I probably could have put that anger into something that would have probably brought something against that lawyer, and probably would have brought that anesthesiologist down. And yes, that would be good, because anesthesiologists can kill people, if they make mistakes like that. But the fact that I didn't, I don't know what's going on for that anesthesiologist, but they are knowing that something happened as a result of them, even if they're not owning up to it and they're trying to pay off lawyers in order to save face. They're going to learn from that. They are going to learn from that, and they're going to go into that space with more caution. And if they don't, they don't. But if I had put everything into retribution, I would not have had the energy to heal. And what ended up happening, hello, Maria Elena, thank you for joining us. If I had not put all my energy into the healing, I wouldn't be able to do what I did. And what I did was I ended up growing back a meter of nerves, like my entire leg from the hip down, in a year and a half. and it's not medically possible. Now, I'm not here today to tell you how to grow back nerves. I will tell you I ate a lot of raw eggs, and if eating raw eggs would do this for people, people would be growing nerves on raw eggs all over the world, but it's not happening, right? And my case a is not something in medical books for people learning how to heal nerves. But I did it. I screamed and yelled, and I did a lot of physical therapy every single day, and I grew back those nerves. Now, what happened? Now, we can guess what happened. But it had a lot to do with my energy being completely dedicated to healing and to believing that I was healing and believing even more that I was healed, seeing that future self of me, making the dream become real. Why? Because all of our brains, just like they like to keep us safe, they don't like a cognitive dissonance. They don't like to have our belief be different than our reality. So if we are hard set on believing, which I was, I was hard set on believing that I could walk and that I would walk again, then it did everything in its power to make that happen for me. So, raw eggs, acupuncture, and a lot of physical therapy. Somehow, and I was in my 20s, and you can grow a little bit of nerves in your 20s. You can grow about an eighth of an inch a year. But I was lucky. I was going to be lucky if I would get an inch of nerve growth in that time. And in fact, half an inch actually, considering like I was only so long in your 20s last, especially when you're in the middle of them. So if you have something that you need to heal and you are busy being upset at the person who's done this to you, your energy is going to go into, your brain is going to support you in this. Yes, that person did this. That's bad. This was bad. Bad happened to me. And when you let it go, you forgive it, and you let it go, what ends up happening is that you have to rectify that rift in your mind. Everything in your energy. This is why we are so powerful and why forgiveness is so powerful. All of that energy that is going into believing, your brain gives you more energy toward the maintenance of that belief. So that's just a real world physical example of that. There's, if you think about your own space, the ex-husband or the ex-wife who is, or ex-partner or ex-boss who hurt you, who slighted you, who maybe made life really hard, maybe cheated, maybe stole, maybe emotionally abused, physically abused. That person in your life who has done this to you. Yeah, we're meant to feel the things we feel about somebody who's done something physical or emotional or spiritual to us because we don't want it to happen again. We know what is going on in our own brain because we're sitting here discussing it. And hello, Roberta Harvey. Thanks for dropping in. When we know that something is happening and we take the time to forgive, to actually, whether we say that we know that person is going through something, that may not be enough. Sometimes we just have to forgive and say, hey, I have a dark side, they have a dark side, they're getting through that. And this had to happen, and I am learning something from it. Whatever works for you, if you are maintaining that forgiveness and letting it go, like it's something that happened to you, it doesn't go away, and you don't sweep the feelings under the rug, but you actually let go of the persecution so that you're not living in that persecution. In that forgiveness is your way of healing. That is where your healing is part of. Your healing happens when you let that go, because in that you give yourself the belief that you can get past this, that you are getting past this, and your brain supports you in that belief. So forgiveness is really, really powerful. It is the first step, and it has to be complete belief in this. It is the first step to lock in all the rest of your ability to heal and to give your brain a powerful message to support you strongly in that healing. So, I'd like to offer that if anybody has any questions and or has anything to say about this that they've had, I'm going to put into the show notes here or onto the screen. Let's see. I think this. I don't know if this will go to everybody, but there's the way the into the studio. Um, Roberta says, "Well, in my family, myself and dad, same numerology. Then mom and sister are the same. And your dad passed from this world. Yeah. Um, and how does that affect you with your ability to heal and your ability to forgive, Roberta? By the way, I just realized that I'm just going to pop this up on the screen. I don't know if you can copy it. When I'm in the studio, I can see the comments on the side, but apparently the only iteration of that um, went to what is it, YouTube. So, um, but that is the link. And hello, Lisa. Good to see you. We're just talking about forgiveness in healing, and I told a story about how I've healed by letting go the idea of retribution on some really bad medical malpractice that had been done to me. And if had I gone for that retribution, I wouldn't have had the power to heal. But the cognitive dissonance that happens when we believe we can heal and we're not healed is that our brain will support us in that healing. And same with emotional. Um, and oh, Roberta, I would love to have you actually come up and talk about that, because this is all about healing between thoughts. That's the name of this show. And it's about the things the discussions that we don't really have about healing that make incredible results. And these are not in our medical books. Like I said, if everybody could, if you could heal nerves and regrow nerves through your through eating raw eggs and having acupuncture, then everybody would be doing it, but they're not. So, and yeah, hello, Jay. Jay says, I heard it many times, forgiveness isn't about healing for those you forgive, but for you, the forgiver. And I feel like it's both. It's both. Depends on who you are and where you're at. But um, I I very much let go of the I very much let go of the anesthesiologist and just didn't, want them to hurt me anymore. But and completely believed that I was healed, that I could walk. And that caused that in my brain everything to make that happen, because clearly I couldn't walk. I didn't have a single nerve in my leg. I didn't have a single muscle. It was all gone, and it was gone really, really fast. But to um, to see my future as being one which I walked, to see my future as being one in which I was not suffering with pain for the rest of my life, like a lot of the doctors were saying, and the neurologists were saying, yeah, you're not going to grow back the nerves, and pain management is going to be your life. If I had gone through what I was supposed to do, which was to sue the lawyer and sue the doctor, I wouldn't have been able to do all that healing. So, yeah, the healing in that way is for me. But, let's think about another way. And here's, I'm not sure which LinkedIn user this one is, because there's a couple of them, but forgiving those we entrusted to protect us is the hardest type of forgiveness. Indeed. And I think those are the kinds of forgiveness that I've done. Because in this, yeah, the anesthesiologist keeps you safe, keeps you alive, and in my case, keeps the tourniquet on and then takes it off every couple of hours, every hour and a half, to let some blood in there. And but when we are, how do I say this? It's like if that anesthesiologist is just, I don't know where my anesthesiologist went, if they went out to lunch or what happened, but that tourniquet was left on, and that made me so that I was never supposed to be able to walk again, right? I think that, and Roberta says we're in Saturn retrograde today, and I would believe that. I had not actually realized that. But anyway, the um, the other thing about forgiving those who are who we entrust um, our safety with, is those people I was talking about a moment ago. You may not think that your relationship with your boss has anything to do with this. Maybe it doesn't, but honestly, the working relationship, they're also supposed to keep us safe. And if you have a wife, husband, partner, or other family member who has hurt you, you also expect to be safe. And sometimes that hurting is huge, huge physical, huge emotional, huge safety breakdowns. And yeah, that's really hard to forgive that person. But then, you can logic your way through this. If they were trying to hurt you, would they have gotten in that relationship in the first place just in order to hurt you? That's a lot of effort. most of us have the sense to realize that somehow, even if it doesn't make an excuse for them hurting you, that somehow they were hurt. And in that hurt, they believed that they were showing you love in the only messed up way they knew how, or that they were making you strong because they feared you not being strong, or in the only, the messed up way that they knew how, or that maybe, just maybe, they suddenly were threatened because of the pain and suffering that they had gone through. This is the pain begetting the pain. And when we forgive that, we're not saying that they can do it again, whether it's physical or emotional. And when I said I can walk, I wasn't saying and that anesthesiologist can come at me again. And no, you can't. You can't come at me again, and you can't come after anyone else. But I didn't put in my compromised state everything into making sure that everybody in the world is safe from that anesthesiologist. I put it into healing. And with somebody who is close to you, who hurt you, and that's happened too, and it is hard. But one person that has happened with for me, my forgiveness actually caused them to change. It's a lot of years now, but they actually changed. And I still had to say, yes, and you can't hurt me in that way. And you can't hurt others that I love. And you need to take care of you. And I understand that you're hurt. Whether you tell them that you understand that they're hurt or not, just not blaming them and knowing in your heart that you have forgiven is really helping you, like Jay says. And if somehow you letting that go and saying, get yourself help, and then going away, you don't have to ever talk to them again, but that can cause the person to actually do the same work that we're doing and get the healing. And then that not only heals us, but keeps it from happening to some other friend, partner, kid, dog, cat. Keeps them safe because we're stopping the pain. We're stopping the agony of all that messed up thinking that's causing us to love in odd ways and to protect in odd ways. So it's a big thing, but I feel like it also goes to stop the pain as well, just because of that forgiveness bringing in the change that makes it not go on anymore. So we've talked about physical, we've talked about emotional, and forgiving the first person who broke my heart was the single most elevated experience of my life and the gateway to my awakening. Yeah, that's the stuff I'm talking about. When we're forgiving, the amount that we rise up is tremendous. And then if they somehow know that we rose up, that we somehow forgave them, they can rise up too. And if they don't, they don't. I mean, this is about you, but it's also about putting more of our best self into the world, putting more love into the world, and it's not always easy. Um, and and Thank you, Jackie. Thanks for telling me. There's like 3 LinkedIn users on here now. I don't know who all the LinkedIn users are. It's just getting more and more interesting on Linky Land lately. I have like 2 people uh, who actually are showing up, and we have Derek in the house now. Good morning, Derek. And Derek is showing up as Derek, but the rest of y'all are LinkedIn users. um, Lisa was also a regular person. um, so right now, Roberta says, I could feel a difference with my mom a couple years ago or so. She had a foot operation and given morphine, which softened her, and I felt it, the invisible thread between our hearts. Wow, that's beautiful, Roberta. There's When we get care, it is really beautiful. I've spent a lot of time in the hospital, um, months and months at a time, and I I had people who caused me a lot of pain in the hospital, and I had nurses who came to my rescue and managed to, like, save my life when great allergic reactions were going on and people just weren't paying attention. This kind of stuff happens, right? Still, even with that, I feel so much care from the hospital because of all of the people trying to help. And even if somebody messes up because they're distracted, they're maybe they're incredibly arrogant and they don't know, but they're going to learn. And if I make it through that at all, I make it through because of the help of nurses and doctors that are really trying to help. And that's what's happened for me. So, and I know very well what 4 a.m. is like because the amount of time I've spent in the hospital. But I also feel like I learned care in the hospital. I really care. Like the initiative to care, the impetus in care, and the the care that actually heals people. And a lot of that care is going right toward, hello, Gregory, right toward our healing. When we forgive, and I'll just, kind of go out with this, when we forgive, that is our healing as well. That is our care for ourselves, as well as for the person who hurt. Like, have you ever made a mistake? I've made mistakes. I've made some whopping mistakes. Um, some of them, whether your mistakes hurt a project, or hurt a person, or uh, ruin a meal, screw up a car or a house, or actually really cause a lot of harm. Did we mean to screw up? Were we maybe really rash when we did that? And when we do that thing, we grow from it if we were really rash. We didn't mean to do harm. We didn't think we were going to do harm. The same thing with people who, in my first story today, the anesthesiologist wasn't scared. They wouldn't have hid the fact that they had hurt me. They clearly had enough money because they paid off the lawyer. It was more about saving their face, because what happens when your entire reputation is ruined? It's really scary. Now, for me, the surgeon actually canceled my bill. And the surgeon said that, yeah, he wasn't in charge of the tourniquet, but the surgeon canceled the bill because he felt responsible for the whole thing. And that was his act of reconciliation. And it wasn't even him who hurt me. He did amazing surgery on my knee. And Roberta says, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And yes, that the Ho'oponopono from Hawaii and in other nationalities too. We are a loving people. Your love has to start at home with your own breathing and drinking water and eating well and knowing that you are doing the best you can, and knowing that you want to do the best you can, and forgiving the little things and then forgiving the bigger things and letting it go, forgiving yourself for not seeing it, for acting rashly, for not sticking up for yourself. Forgive yourself. Love yourself. You have to do this. And this is how we stop the pain. I really appreciate everybody for being here. Get a swig of water. I mentioned water, and there it was. I was thirsty. If you have any more comments, I would love to see them. Otherwise, I am going to stop the live stream. This show happens every other week on Sundays. This is Healing Between Thoughts. I really appreciate you all being here. And if you liked this, hit like. If you're on YouTube and you haven't done it yet, you can gently push the subscribe button. We will have people on who are talking about how to heal right here, and forgiveness is one of the most actionable ways to start healing. So thank you, Roberta. Let's make it happen and talk. Yes, everyone. Please, if you liked this, share it, and so that people can watch it on replay also. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you all in a week or two. Thank you, and ciao.